Chapter 3. Charlie guided the unmarked Crown Victoria through Mountain View's residential streets, where single-story homes and mature trees spoke of the city's pre-tech identity. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across well-tended lawns and driveways, where children's bikes lay abandoned next to gleaming new BMWs, signs of the area's changing demographics. Through the rearview mirror, he watched Dr. Gaines sort through her papers, her New York sophistication somehow making the department-issue car feel even more provincial. He took a turn too quickly, sending her documents sliding across the back seat onto the floor. "Sorry," he said, suppressing a grin. She kept her cool, though her feathers were ruffled. Pete turned to help, his attention caught by her long, shapely legs. She noticed his wandering eyes, but her own expression remained unreadable as Pete clumsily gathered papers from the floor. "What are these?" he asked. "Case studies of unprovoked multiple homicides in the Bay Area. This is what I've been doing for the past 2 weeks. San Jose." Pete read from one report. "You must have met Marty Oliva." Robin nodded. "He went to high school with one of the victims in the Garden Store massacre." "So much violence. What the hell's going on in this country?" "Whatever it is, this is the place to be looking. The Bay counties show an off-the-chart increase in senseless mass murders." Pete continued reading as they passed a construction site where another old orchard was being cleared for development. Hayward, 6 employees gunned down in a bottling plant by a coworker. Walnut Creek, 12-year-old boy shoots his parents and 2 younger sisters. "I've interviewed a few surviving assailants," Robin said, her voice taking on a clinical edge as they turned onto a street where preserved Victorians sat incongruously next to blocky modern homes. "It's uncanny how similar they described their experience." She paused, recollecting. "They all said they felt like their minds were taken over by a powerful, raging force, then watched as their bodies committed horrible crimes." "What a bunch of psycho bullshit," Charlie snapped. "You really believe all these incidents are related?" "I believe in patterns, statistics, numbers. It's too widespread. Something very frightening is occurring. I wish I had the chance to interview Thomas Walters. He might have been able to articulate what drove him to such madness." "Now I get it. We're chauffeuring the doc around so she can gather words of wisdom from crazy people." Robin ignored Charlie's jab, turning her attention to his partner instead. "Pete, I'm curious. A nice guy like you. You're so different from Charlie. What's the attraction?" Pete's awkward laugh filled the car. "What? I don't understand. What's it you like about him?" Charlie waited for the answer with poorly concealed interest. Pete's response, when it came, was inspired. "He's got a great wife and daughter." "Sure," Charlie grinned. "Pete's just waiting for me to buy it. He's always had the hots for Liz." "You see," Pete explained to Robin, "don't take Charlie personal. He's a jerk to everybody." For the first time since they'd met, all 3 smiled together. A small crowd of gawkers had gathered outside the Walters house, their presence jarring in this quiet neighborhood where the most excitement usually came from weekend garage sales. 2 uniformed cops held them back from the modest single-story home, its carefully maintained garden suggesting a life lived with precision and order. Charlie parked behind their cruiser, and the 3 investigators made their way to Officer Bobby Jensen at the perimeter. "Hey, Bobby, any problems?" Charlie asked. "Not out here, Sergeant, but there was another phone threat." "How's Mrs. Walters doing?" Pete asked. "She's got a visitor." They approached the house, noting how its neat appearance, the trimmed hedges, the swept walkway, the polished brass house numbers, presented an illusion that recent events had shattered. At Charlie's ring, Mrs. Walters opened the door, a slight graying woman who carried herself with quiet dignity, despite her obvious distress. Her cardigan and sensible shoes marked her as part of the old Mountain View, before hoodies and sneakers became the Valley's uniform. "Mrs. Walters?" "Yes." Charlie showed his ID. "I'm Detective Brock. We'd like to ask you a few questions." "Please come in." Mrs. Walters was unsteady as she led them through the living room, where family photos and academic certificates created a timeline of normality. The room's careful arrangement, from the aligned furniture to the methodically organized scientific journals on the coffee table, spoke of Thomas Walters' ordered mind, making his violent outburst even more inexplicable. A tall man in his 50s sat on the couch holding a cup of tea, his bearing suggesting corporate authority, even in this informal setting. His gray-streaked hair was still full, and his large eyes held an intensity that matched the gleaming Rolex on his wrist, both markers of Silicon Valley success. He rose as Mrs. Walters attempted an introduction. "Bradford, this is Detectives Rota, Brock, and Professor Gaines." Pete jumped in. "Bradford Wachtel," the man said, shaking hands with each of them, his grip calculated to convey both strength and restraint. "Tom worked for Mr. Wachtel up until 7 months ago," Mrs. Walters explained, her hands fidgeting with her cardigan. "Then he got involved with that awful man, Dr. Leeds." Her composure cracked, tears welling up. "Please excuse me." She hurried from the room, leaving an awkward silence filled only by the gentle whir of a ceiling fan and the distant sound of media vehicles pulling up outside. "Shall we sit?" Wachtel suggested. "What kind of work did Tom Walters do for you?" Pete asked Wachtel. "Sensory perception." Wachtel pointed to his eyes, then his head. "Tom knew how this and this work. He helped me enhance color circuits in televisions." Pete's eyes widened with recognition. "Wachtel Color." "Correct," Bradford confirmed. "That's like Dolby Sound," Charlie noted. "It's in everything now." Wachtel's careful smile managed to be both proud and humble, an expression perfected in countless tech boardrooms. "What do you know about Dr. Leeds?" Pete pressed. "Not much. A computer genius. Bad-tempered. Refused to share his work with the rest of the scientific community." Wachtel's tone suggested this as among the gravest of sins in the collaborative culture of Silicon Valley research. Robin leaned forward. "Any idea what Leeds and Walters were working on?" "The few rumors I've heard say cybernetics and artificial intelligence." Wachtel glanced at his watch, the gesture smooth and practiced. "You'll have to excuse me. I have an executive meeting to attend. Please tell Mrs. Walters I'll stop by soon." He shook their hands again. "It was very nice to meet you." After Wachtel's departure, Pete studied a framed photo of Tom Walters on the wall, a kind-faced man with a gentle smile captured at what looked like an academic conference. Behind him, a banner partially visible read, "Neuroscience Symposium, 1993. Mrs. Walters returned, dabbing at swollen eyes. "I'm so sorry. I just can't." She took a deep breath, steadying herself against a bookshelf lined with scientific journals. "Believe what's happened." Charlie's voice took on a gentleness that surprised Robin. "Mrs. Walters, I'd like to ask you some questions while my partners take a look around the house." She nodded, and Pete and Robin left them to search the den. As they sifted through files and notebooks, the room revealed the evolution of Walters' work, from stacks of Wachtel color technical documentation to more recent papers covered in increasingly erratic handwriting. Meanwhile, Mrs. Walters spoke to Charlie in the living room, recalling her husband's recent behavior. "He was working very hard. He always worked hard. I think he and Dr. Leeds had a falling out because the last few days he did all his work at home. I asked him about the change, but he was so irritable, very troubled about something, and wouldn't tell me what was going on. He raised his voice to me." Her voice caught. "He never once did that before. He was a very gentle man. What happened to Thomas? How could he leave me with all these questions?" At Tom's computer desk, Robin examined the labels on a row of disks, each meticulously dated and cataloged until the final week, when the ordered system broke down. "We should take these, see what's on them." "I'll let Mrs. Walters know," Pete said. Pete studied the computer itself, a larger, older model that seemed out of place given Walters' cutting-edge research. A curious splotch of red paint marred its beige exterior. He scratched at the dried paint with his fingernail, wondering what secrets the machine might hold. Through the den window, he could see news vans gathering at the end of the street, their satellite dishes rising like mechanical flowers in the late afternoon light.